Welcome to Enhance.training YouTube channel. This is the third episode in our pricing methodology series. In this series, we've been looking at 3 founding pricing methods and why you should or shouldn't use them. Pricing your products can be a minefield that many people simply shy away from or try to ignore. But your business will thank you and reward you if you give pricing the time and effort it deserves. So, having investigated cost plus pricing and competitive pricing, we're now going to move on to my favourite pricing method, value pricing. I love value pricing, and in this video I'm going to tell you what it is, why it works, and where it works best. My name is Anna Taylor, and if you're new to this channel, Enhance.training provides online business courses to help professionals, managers, and business owners improve their performance. For over 15 years, I've worked in finance alongside sales and marketing teams, and I've seen firsthand the importance of getting that pricing right. So from training sales and marketing teams in margin and pricing to, co-designing and calculating the impact of an entirely new price pack architecture, and pretty much everything to do with pricing in between. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share it with friends. I'm now going to tell you why you really should be value pricing when pricing your product. Now, whilst there are other pricing methods available to you, I'm going to tell you why value-based pricing is the one you should put forward first and why it's the one that will make you the most profit. Other pricing methods may be quicker and probably easier to understand, but that doesn't mean that you should ignore value pricing. You've most likely spent hours and hours on product design, packaging, and marketing, so make sure you put the same attention into your pricing. Your customers and your pockets will really thank you for it. So, what is value pricing? Well, unsurprisingly, value pricing is all about value. It's not about being the cheapest nor the most expensive, it's about the best value. So while premium pricing strategy is about higher prices and quality, this is about the value you're giving to your customer, whether that's a retailer, wholesaler, or consumer. Value-based pricing is based on setting a price that reflects the value you're giving to the consumer and not on the cost of providing the product. So to do this successfully, you'll need to really understand your consumer, what they like, what they value, and what they're willing to pay for. And when your customer values your product more than the money they have, they'll buy it. So let's look at why value pricing works. Well, first of all, because of customer focus. The key to this pricing strategy is the focus on your customer. You'll know how much a customer values your product when you understand them in detail. The more you understand your customer, the more you can develop your product to suit what they need and what they value. Now, there are no right or wrong answers, as people are different and they value things differently, but you need to find out what those things are. Therefore, the most important thing is to get out and talk to your customers. Do the market research, you could complete a customer survey, but you must discover what they want and their willingness to pay. You need to find out those features that really matter to them the most, how your product solves their problems or makes their lives better. You need to know where the biggest demand lies and who values your product the most. This will help you to develop products that are high in value, and you can develop products that really suited your customer and what they really value rather than just what you think they do. And it will stop you wasting time and spending money on things that the customer doesn't really want or doesn't really care about. Now, let me give you a real life example of this. So I worked with a direct to consumer business whose owner loved to send out her products with big, expensive, luxurious packaging, including as standard. But through a series of focus groups, she found out that, about half of these people found it really annoying and just threw it away straight away. And there were others that were concerned about the environmental impact, and then a smaller number who absolutely loved the packaging just as much as she did, but said they would have been willing to pay more for it. So this seller now uses all environmentally friendly, simple packaging, but charges a premium for premium packaging. She's more profitable and her customers are happier, so it's a win-win. Now, it also works because it's a fair exchange of value. So value pricing helps you get the highest price for your product. This is because you focus on what you're giving to your customer rather than simply on the price of it. It all comes down to the balance of value. So here we have no sale. Well, if your customer feels that the money they're paying is heavier or worth more than the value your product will give, they're not going to buy it. I mean, would you buy something that you didn't think would be of any use? Of course you wouldn't. On the other hand, we can now see an example of a sale. So if your customer feels that the value they're getting from your product is, well, it's heavier, it's worth more than the cost, they'll buy it. Would you buy something you thought would be more valuable than the price to buy it? Well, most likely, yes. In fact, this is something that's built into us. For example, we all love a bargain and we're drawn to items we think are worth more but cost us less. You only have to look at Black Friday deals. But when you know what is important to your customer, you can tailor your product so that it's worth paying more for. The customer will be happy as they have something they really value, and you'll be happy because you're charging, well, more than you might have done had you used a more simple pricing method. And finally, value pricing helps you generate the most profit. So value-based pricing helps you design products that your customers want, and it helps increase demand as customers will value what you're selling. But most importantly for your business survival and prosperity, value pricing is more likely to give you more profit than other pricing methods. So if your product is more useful or answers a specific need better than anything else, then customers will be willing to pay more for it. Think about it. And here's my tip of the day. Customers do not care how much it costs you to make. And they don't really care what you think of your competitors. What they care about is what value they're getting at the price they're paying. So cost plus pricing may be easy, but it doesn't take your customer or market conditions into account. So if you have no idea what the customer really wants and simply, add a markup to your costs, you may well be leaving value behind. The customer could have been willing to pay more. Price is the element in your business that has the biggest impact on profits. You don't want to minimise your prices and your profits. Well, while I've been explaining to you that value pricing is the best pricing method, I do have to accept that there are a few pitfalls. There are also instances where, it's not the best method and it would be irresponsible of me not to point these out. So first of all, for value pricing to be done properly, it does take considerable time and resources. It's not quick, and even after all your research, the answers may not even be conclusive. However, I strongly believe that the effort is worth it and your product and business will benefit from this extra time spent. I mean, I've seen businesses try and cut corners on pricing and then they come to regret it later because it's just not worth it. Also, customers can be fickle and they can change their minds. So it's really important to keep talking to your customers and find out what they value and why. So with this method, you'll need to keep revisiting your prices regularly to check they're still relevant and that the balance of that value and cost hasn't changed. You can also use this method, you can't use this method on its own. So just because I said value-based pricing is better than cost plus or competitor pricing, doesn't mean that you should ignore them. You must be aware of your own costs and your competitors' actions. You must make sure that you can afford to sell your product at the price your customers are willing to pay. If you can't afford it, do not do it. Go back to the drawing board, redesign your product until you can make the profit that you need. And do not ignore your competitors' actions. Your product should be clearly differentiated from the competition because no one will pay more for something that they can get, the same, but for cheaper elsewhere. So in light of this, let's go through where value pricing does work best. Well, it works best in the following situations. For example, for those emotion-based products like in fashion or cosmetics or personal care. It works in niche markets, where your product delivers something that nothing else can, so when it's new and exciting. It also works in shortages, so for example, a nice cold drink on a hot day at a festival, you'd certainly pay more for that. It also works for associated products, so those headphones that go with a certain mobile phone or ink cartridges that go with your printer. But where value-based pricing wouldn't work is for products that are in a hyper-competitive environment, where a distinct advantage or value can't be shown. And in this case, the focus is on price and not value, so an alternative method should be chosen. Be careful though, always make sure you can afford to compete in a price-driven market. It may not also be appropriate when time is of the essence. I mean, I would always recommend to do really thorough research into consumer belief and demand. But I do know that we don't always have the luxury of time, so in this case another method could be used. But this really should be the exception and not the rule. So in summing up, well, value pricing is the most profitable way to price your product. It makes sure that your product and its features focus on what your customer or your consumer values the most. And the more value you provide, the more they will be willing to pay. Now, this isn't about profiteering, but it's about a fair exchange of value. It will make your business grow, prosper, and have a loyal customer base who really value what you do. And if you combine this with cost plus and competitive pricing, you will be onto a winner. Now, if you need a few pointers on how to choose a strategy or some extra pricing advice, please visit us at Enhance.training and select articles, or, well, better still, sign up to our pricing learning hub for access to our pricing calculators, fact sheets, how-to guides, and much more. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe and hit the bell to get notified of our weekly video releases. This really helps us, well, produce more videos to help you. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you soon.